you don't need anything else other than love. It is the only thing that even means anything on this path. Now, the challenge is that what we face is this level of intellect that, if unawakened, will actually prevent us from expressing this love. So this is where wisdom and love and wisdom intertwine. Wisdom is like the intelligence of love, love's intelligence. It's how love is communicated through experience and taught as well. So the thing that happens is that we can have like a heart awakening. The birthing of my spiritual path was the heart awakening, and just an understanding of unconditional love and a feeling of unconditional love. For me, that back then it was expressed towards who I would consider my guru, which was Neem Karoli Baba and Ram Dass, who I learnt from in my early days of my path. And I felt this love of God and this deep, deep sense of devotion, which I couldn't reconcile in my mind. I felt this freedom, but there was so many things that held me back from fully living this freedom. It felt like, it almost felt like I know it's there, but it may as well not be there because I don't seem to be living that way. It was like, I mean, to some degree I was, in some areas, but still, it just didn't quite add up. And then what happened was I took a very intellectual path. And my path of devotion, my Bhakti stage, was filled with high excitations. So like a lot of love, and I felt really good, but then I felt a lot of suffering. And it was very volatile. And I was very ungrounded. My energy was really unfocused. When you're ungrounded, what that basically means is that your intention and your focus and your willpower are not aligned, and there's no direction for it. So basically, you don't know what you're doing, you don't know where you're going, you don't know what's happening, you don't know what you prefer. Everything is like this isn't the not knowing that I usually talk about. If you guys know what I'm talking about when I say this, this isn't like sixth octave, I don't know, and I am in no knowledge, right? This is like, I just have no directive energy. In sixth octave, energy is still directed to ourself. So there's a clear understanding of the goal, but we're in this transcendent, it's like a post-trans not knowing. This is a pre-trans, so this is like, I have no idea, and I'm so clueless that my energy is just seeping out of my toes. And what happens in this instance is that we're seeking states of mind at that stage, like exotic states of mind. And this is very symbolic of Ram Dass taking copious amounts of LSD and therefore me doing the same. I thought I had to achieve a state of mind. I thought I had to like get a different state to what I'm currently in. Like, this is the unenlightened state, and I've got to get a different one, the one that I have when I'm on LSD, and I just need to figure out how to get there without LSD, right? So at this stage, my energy is very ungrounded. I'm seeking states, but I genuinely feel really good. So it's like the freedom at that stage where my mind was more, it's hard to explain, but it was almost like there was less spiritual conditioning, which meant that there was just more opportunity to experience my true nature, even if it was unconsciously, like even if I wasn't aware that I was experiencing that, it just was. And I had a lot of like existential zest and passion, even though half the time I was clueless, but then a lot of suffering with that. And so when I took the more intellectual path, because I felt something, I felt the desire for truth, this desire to understand. It wasn't just a desire for God, the form of God, or for myself. It was, yes, myself, yes, God, but I also want to understand truth. And this intellectual path is what took me to Rupert Spira, who is my first proper teacher, who disentangled all of this state seeking and this kind of spiritual conditioning that I then created up until that point, and give me a language to understand my experience. But the problem was not with that teaching, not with Rupert's teaching or what he was doing, but in my misinterpretation was that I mistook my true nature to be a blank state. And I kind of blank. The only way I could say it is that I consciousnessified it. So I basically, the term consciousness, although is, in my opinion, in a lot of cases, a very, very useful word to use, there's something about it that also nullifies and misinterpret, like somehow can make you misinterpret what we're actually pointing to when we use the word consciousness. And so anyway, I nullified and dullified my sense of being alive, and I felt numb. So when I took when I was on the path of Bhakti, I had a lot of joy, a lot of existential zest, but then a lot of suffering, like raw suffering. Then when I took the intellectual approach, which is a necessary approach, it's not you do one or the other, you need both. And ultimately you want the heart and the head to combine through a process of understanding and recognizing true devotion, which requires the path of understanding, which is how they both combine. So when I took that approach, I felt numb. And what I'd done is like clothed these layers of interpretation, right? So I was using then this new language that I'd learned and understood to interpret my experience. I then used it to interpret my awakenings. I then used it to filter my current experience with a belief that I am experiencing my true nature. So even though I was already, I actually started to veneer a belief over it because I thought I had to do something extra. And this belief felt like experiencing my being as a blank, empty state, which is the mind's best interpretation of what it is, but it is not at all a blank, empty state, which is an interesting thing to come to terms with, because then, well, what is it? Well, this is why people don't use words, right? This is why Ramana Maharshi stays silent, because it's so easy to misinterpret. So this is why I'm always extra careful with words, and why it's almost like I've been trying to find a way to communicate without even using these types of words. But the point I'm making is that the path of Bhakti had a lot of feeling, but it had a lack of understanding and a lot of concealment. The path of understanding, the intellectual path, where the intellect awakens, and once that awakens, you stop preventing your understanding from coming into the body. The nervous system then regulates, so it's almost like there's a path of Bhakti, path of Jnana, if you want to put it that way, path of knowledge. It's like the somatic path, which requires you, it doesn't require you, but it's where basically you're receiving the energy of winning the universal lottery. You have this love, this heart awakening, then you have this understanding awakening, where you understand everything you basically need to know. You don't need to find a state, you're already in the place to be, all these types of things. You understand what you are, you experience what you are, and you start to then see what levels, what layers of my experience am I preventing myself, or what layers of my experience are concealing myself. And they'll always be on a layer of thought, feeling, and perception. You'll either have thoughts that conceal yourself, meaning a thought that convinces you that you're limited, a feeling that convinces you that you're limited, and then therefore you go out and behave like a separate self again, or a perception that makes you convinced that you're limited. So I see a separate object, I hear a separate sound, I'm in the body, the sound is out there, and you create this separate world. The seeing the duality in it is not the issue. The belief is that the problem is when you believe the duality of it is real. That's what separation is. That's what creates the suffering. So when I was on this path, I realized that the importance of it all is love. The understanding of the intellectual awakening side of things is a necessary level, a stage of the path for the sake of love. You see? For the sake of love. And love is for its own sake. So the intellectual path, or the path of knowledge, which is actually the path of removing knowledge, the path of understanding is a better way of putting it, is a necessary part of the path for the sake of love. You see? It's not the part of the path because that's what it is. But yeah, for the sake of love. And love is for its own sake. So what we find is this love, it celebrates itself And when you look around, that's what everything is. So we go through a process of first the world conceals ourselves. Then we take this path of understanding. Then the world reveals itself. Then the world celebrates itself. When I say it's always celebrating, but when we are in ignorance, the world will, because we have beliefs that the objects are real and they stand outside and we're inside, and we create this duality that then we believe is real, and then when we believe it's real, we create suffering. Everything we do convinces us that everything we do and everything we see convinces us that we're limited, because we believe we have the evidence, right? Well, of course I'm separate. Look, the cup is there and I'm here, right? We think that's evidence, but that's not evidence. Evidence would be, well, what is the I that is here? What are we referring to? So you have to go back and back and back to be very specific with what you're referring to in order for you to have proof. Most people never explore that. So once you do that, objects then start to reveal your true nature. The world doesn't conceal you anymore. The world reveals you, right? So to speak. And then once you see that the world reveals you, you see the world is revelation. Once you realize the world is revelation, you see the world is celebration. The world is actually everything that you can possibly perceive is not an external thing that you're perceiving. It's literally you celebrating yourself in all forms. It's like, the only way I can put it is like you being everything because you can. Because why not? It's like let's have fun. Let's just do a triple backflip off the roof, because why not? Let's have fun, type of thing. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, the classic example of just jumping off the building into the pool at a party, right? It's a silly example, but it's like, well, let's just do something dumb and fun because why not? It's just fun, right? Not that I recommend doing that, but you understand the sentiment here. Life is having fun. Fun is an expression of freedom. Freedom is literally what love is, and love celebrates itself in what we call life. So when we put it all together, it comes down to love. So don't mistake these teachings and these things that I share to be something other than that. And don't mistake any of the teachings that you listen to from any other teachers or any other people or whoever you're listening to, whatever friends you have, to be mistaken for something other than that. This is a celebration, from concealment to revealment to celebration for the sake of love. When that is your guiding principle, everything else becomes a lot easier and more clear. So make that your guiding principle. Not just revelation. Revelation for the sake of what? For the sake of love. What is the sake of? Well, there's no reason. It just is. Why do we love love? Why do we love happiness? There's no reason for that. Any desire that you have where you cannot actually give a reason why that is something you desire is a pure desire. And a pure desire is pure willpower, pure energy, pure love. I hope this video brings some clarity. I hope this video helps you kind of connect the dots between your heart and your head. And I have a free community where I basically, do calls and meditations and cover these topics in detail. If you'd like to join, the link is in the description. If you haven't subscribed, it would be cool if you did. It helps the channel. Have an amazing day, guys. Take care.